That's kind of weird. There we all are. Now I'm going to try and do the Facebook and manage that. Sorry, not Facebook. What's it called? YouTube.
YouTube.
Go live. That looks like it. Oh,
I just got a notification. We are live.
You. Right. How do I even do that? See, now I'm confused. I don't know what's live and what's actual. What's the actual? Where's the
I
actual
can see
webinar?
us on Facebook. His nose.
Yeah. Right.
I'm pretty sure he's doing that on purpose.
I don't know if I can do two live things. Maybe I can just do one at once. Maybe that's how it works. Sorry, if anybody, we're just trying to figure out how the technology works. The intention is to do a sort of half-hour-ish sort of podcast episode live with these three guys here. I don't know, Kyle, and we've got Paul and we've got Chris. And I'm currently trying to figure out if any of this is going live or how it works.
Looks like we're working in the WP Builds group, so that's probably all that matters.
Yeah, let me just click on that link there. Oh yeah, sure enough, there it is. Yeah. Hey guys. Yeah. Okay.
My new mate.
That's let's call it then. So hello everybody. I am Nathan Wrigley from WP Builds, and I've been joined today for something a bit new. I'm going to say every week, but that might not happen depending on commitments and things. But the idea really is that I do this kind of WordPress weekly news bulletin, which goes out on a Monday morning at about 7 o'clock UK time. There's quite a bit of information in there that might be nice to chat around with some WordPress figures, leading WordPress figures. So I've got three of them on the call. Hopefully you can see them. To my right, I don't know if it's going to be my right or left, but next is Kyle Van Duzen. Kyle, as you probably know, is from the Admin Bar, a podcast all about WordPress and running digital agencies and so on. Beneath me, that's horrible, is Paul Lacey, who runs an agency in the UK called Dicky Bird's Studio. He's been on the podcast several times before. And then diagonally to me is Chris Badger, LMS. They're all people that hopefully you know. Now the URL for the episode that we're going to be kind of discussing, I'm going to put in as a comment in the Facebook post. So and hopefully that will give you some sort of reference point about what it is that we're talking about. So first of all, guys, do you want to spend a bit of time? I don't know if this is the format that we'll do every week, but do you want to spend a bit of time before we begin just introducing yourselves, saying who you are, anything that I've missed, and so on? Should we start with Kyle?
Hello, I'm Kyle Van Duzen. Like he said, I co-host the Admin Bar with my good pal Matt Siebert. I'm in Texas. I have a small one, just myself. You can see I'm super branded. I can't point the right direction in the mirror. But yeah, that's it. I'm super glad to be here. I'm a huge fan of the WP Builds News podcast, so I'm just here to ruin that for everyone.
Moving on, then we've got Chris Badgett. Is there anything I missed, Chris?
Sure. I'm Chris Badgett from Lifter LMS. I have a plugin for helping people create, sell, and protect engaging online courses called Lifter, and also it's called LMS Cast.
Very nice. And
he's got that elevator pitch down for Lifter.
Yeah,
I just fumble about.
Yeah. That's good. No, it's good. It is good to have that because there's awkward moments at a word. You've got something to say. And then finally, Paul Lacey. Did I miss anything out?
I don't think so. Paul Lacey, co-founder of the Dicky Bird Studio, WordPress and UX agency, and I'm here because I've got dirt on Nathan. Let me on the show, then I'm going public with it.
Yeah, that's
how
true.
he got on the Admin Bar too.
There's no justification for Paul being on anything. You must have dirt all over the world then, in that case, Paul, because
got nothing on Chris yet. Nothing on Chris.
discover something as the day goes on. So, okay, I've got my WordPress Weekly News post open, and I'm just going to start talking about all the news items. We decided before we went live that we were going to kind of. I don't think that's going to work because the only way that I can see you guys. Oh no, that will work. No, that'll work. That's okay. I'm not looking at the right screen. So if you've got something you want to interrupt on, that's fine. If you disagree with me, that's fine. If you, but you won't come back. Hammer. And if you've got anything to add, if you think that I've missed anything out or what have you, then please tell me at the end. So the first bit of news was all about, it was over on the WP Tavern website, all about the fact that WordPress 5.2 has been pushed back to May the 7th. It was mooted to be pushed out on April the 30th, but there's a whole bunch of tickets. I think one is still outstanding. And basically we've got I'll talk about the lovely new icons in a moment, but we've got a new admin interface called Site Health, which allows you. This is actually really cool. I'm going to sort of hand this one over to you guys to begin with, because I don't know if you've run into this before, but 5.0 introduced this nice new interface whereby if a plugin balks your site, WordPress will not die. You won't get the white screen of death. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but that's the intention. The idea is that it's going to what has gone wrong and then kind of like disable that particular plugin. Paul, was that you? Who raised their hand?
That was me.
Chris, go for it.
I think this is a wonderful thing. As a part of what we do is support. And a lot of times we end up debugging problems caused by other plugins or themes or whatever. And for a non-developer, when they get the white screen or they get an error message and don't quite know, we're narrowing the gap between helping the user self-serve and figure out what they need to deactivate or, potentially which company they should be contacting, since we have a community or an ecosystem of tools installed on our site. I think it's a great area for WordPress core to focus on.
That's really interesting because basically I fix the problems. In my case, I'm not really thinking about the clients. The clients kind of phone me up and say it's gone wrong and I figure it out. But yeah, it is a process of figuring it out. I'll read you the exact passage from WP Tavern because it sums it up nicely. It says a new feature called Fatal Error Recovery Mode is also included in this release. It pauses themes or plugins that are causing fatal errors and puts the site into a recovery mode so the user can still access, troubleshoot the issue. Users should experience fewer white screens of death situations with this new feature in place. But yeah, good point. I hadn't really thought about it from the point of view of a plugin developer. I was just thinking about it from my point of view and thinking, well, this thing. But I guess in the future, I don't need to waste time with that whole nonsense of deactivate all the plugins and then reactivate them one at a time and see which is conflicting. This, in theory, I don't know how they're going to do this, how they're actually doing it.
I don't know how they're doing it, but I wonder how user friendly or who they're focusing this on. So if it comes to me, if it happens to me as somebody who knows my way around WordPress, well, then it's probably going to be up to my client. Is this going to be even more confusing to them? I almost wish I could have a way to customize the message to the client, whatever you did just screwed everything up, so stop and call Kyle.
yeah Care plans and things. This is a feature which kind of removes an element of your justification for charging for a care plan in a sense, because
I think it's just going to add to their problems. I'm not worried about that.
Okay. Interesting. The other thing is this is a beta release at the moment. It's you can go and check it out. It's release candidate 1. You've got about 8 days if you want to beta test it. Do you guys ever do any of that stuff? Do you go out and actually beta test release candidates of WordPress? Chris does. Yeah, I have a few times, but essentially I've never, ever found a problem. I think I just install them and play.
I beta test some plugins, I'll beta test Beaver Builder. Normally it's super interesting features, but this is an interesting feature, because I'm enjoying reading the new stuff that's coming to WordPress again now. I'm actually really happy with Gutenberg, but for a whole year I was just every time it's coming, it was just stressing me out. So now this is something that is a new feature that I'm interested in, and it's just nice to read. It's like a changelog is actually not stressing me out anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe you can back with what they're doing to core.
Yeah, exactly. It feels like it's not even, we don't even have to worry about Gutenberg anymore. It's kind of like we can, it just feels like they're focusing on stuff that we all need and want.
Speaking of Gutenberg, it's a very minor point in this particular article, but it says that we've reached Gutenberg version 5.4, and it says it includes the new block management, new blocks that were ported from core widgets. I think the idea is over time we're going to go from widgets over everything as a block, and I think you can nest things now, so you can kind of reorganize it so that it looks how you want it to look. So you can put block, kind of like have parent blocks. You know what? I've tried to use Gutenberg. The only use case I've got for it is the actual news article, because it's just a paragraph after a paragraph after a paragraph. I'm still sticking with page builders. I'm not going anywhere on that point. Okay, so let's move on. So I think probably the thing that we're most interested in this week is the new dash icons. Let's be honest. We've all, So this is on WP Tavern. 13 new dash icons. Paul raised his hand. What are you got to say about the dash icons?
I think they look great. I do have a but, and I hadn't really thought about this for a long time until I just realized, why have we got so many icons in WordPress? Down that left-hand side, it's almost kind of brought to my attention that when I'm looking at lots of other SaaS products and stuff like that, and then I look at WordPress, it feels like, when you've got a company that is talking about itself rather than its customers' needs. It's almost like the WordPress backend is so techie orientated. Can't be doing that because of the kind of plugin architecture, how, so Lifter, for instance, needs to come in and needs to have its own section and stuff. But I'd love to sort of see an experiment where WordPress admin was more around the intent. I'm going into this technical bit to do this bit and this, because there's, and then for there to be so many icons now, I just feel like those new dash icons would be better dispersed in useful ways in the big buttons in different places, and maybe sidebar. It just kind of brought it to my attention in a way. That makes sense.
I came from Drupal, and WordPress is a joy. I think WordPress still looks nice. I actually logged into a Drupal site about a week ago. It doesn't look quite as good. And I think although WordPress has looked like this, how many years has it looked like this? 7, 6? I don't know, because I've not been using it that long. I still think it looks pretty good. Thing though, that it's the spread of weird things that they cover. There's a dog with what looks like a stick in its back. I don't know what that is all about. Literally, it looks like a dog with a stick completely vertically shoved in its body press. There's a birthday cake with 2 candles. There's something which looks like a beehive. There's some balloons, a letter, and then some like sharing and pictures of planets. It's a really broad. A female. That was something which was in the WP Tavern article. For the first time, we got an actual female for the for one of the icons.
It's always neutral, I believe, as well.
That's right.
Look at that. Yeah. What do we got? Businessman. You got business woman who's got the typical kind of hair going like that. I don't know if that's going to annoy some people or not. But then you've got business person with no kind of just a label there. Anyway, there you go. Press icons. Should we move on? Have we said everything there is to say about dash icons? So the next one is right. This really fascinated me this week. I don't know if you saw this. It was a YouTube video from a guy, Fishkin. Have I got his name right? Is that him? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I believe he doesn't work for Moz anymore, but I don't know if that's for true. And this is not new. This is an old piece of content, but because I enjoyed it so much, I put it from September last year. And he is talking about the future of SEO. And if there's anybody on this planet who knows about this kind of stuff, apart from the guys locked away in Mountain View, California, then I think it's this guy. He speaks at great length about the fact that search engine results pages are just nothing like they used to be. And a great example is, for example, now if you go look for a flight, 10 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever, I want to go to Barcelona or something. You type that in, it'd give me a web page, and you'd go to that web page and search for a flight. Now, they try to get everything done on Google. So you can book the flight through Google. You want to watch, it can be looked at right there. And it's the same on mobile. So it was all about like that hijacking, how Google is scraping people's content, figuring out ways to even like circumvent content creators and publishers, and get newspapers have been troubled by this. Newspaper articles can basically be read on Google if you don't really want to go too deep. Any thoughts on this, guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think the flight example is interesting, and there's plenty of things later in your news. You're talking about kind of the voice search, and I think that ties into it as well. But especially on mobile, when you search for something on Google, usually the top part of the SERP is whatever Google's answer is. So like on the flight from Dallas to London, it's going to give me times and everything. I mean, it's going to let me schedule right there. And on your phone, that's basically the entire viewport of the screen. So anybody else's content is pushed completely out of view, which is pretty interesting. At one point, I want to say like Google is kind of the devil sometimes, and they're self-serving, but at the same time, that's really easy for users. If I'm looking for a flight and that's the first thing that pops up, then job done,
I don't think anybody can argue with the convenience of Google. I suppose the argument would be, if you're a minor player, let's say that you just set up, to use the example of flights again, if you're an airline company that's just beginning and you're running a similar set of routes to an established, if everybody's doing everything through the SERPs, and the SERPs show, I don't know, United or American Airlines or whatever, first and second. I came back from holiday the other week, and so I'm, that thing when you come back from holiday, so you start looking. Did that, and again, absolutely all of it could be done through Google. I'd not experienced it before, in that I typed in where I wanted to go. It gave me the options for flights, hotels, everything. And although I didn't click on any of the links because I knew the provider I wanted to go through, so I scrolled through until I found it. I could have done it all without stepping away from Google. And I think if you are creating content and you're writing a lot of content, wax it on their homepage, and people don't visit you to decide whether it's any good. They just dismiss you on the basis of the first paragraph, which has been scraped. That's tough. That's hard, I think. Go, Paul.
I think it's like Kyle said, it's like, from a user point of view, it's just absolutely awesome. And then I know, because WP Builds News covers non-WordPress stuff as well, it's also the angle of, that's Google just knows even more about us now. It doesn't necessarily, even GDPR and stuff like that protects our names and whatnot, but it doesn't protect our like user persona of us. So there's still a, without knowing our name, they know, we're using the map thing, we know where we're going, which I'm not personally worried about that. But it is kind of, whereas for instance, I listened to a podcast the other day, and a guy was talking about how Apple, why did Apple just even bother having, they could just install Google Maps on the phone. So they operate Apple Maps at a complete loss, purely so their users don't have to use Google Maps and have Google tracking exactly where they're going and keep. So from a user point of view, it's kind of great, but it's also kind of scary how much deeper we're going to be just pressing into this one platform, and it knows exactly what we're doing. And so, that's all I've got to say to that. But I'd use it.
Go on, Carl.
It's weird when you look at like your search, you'll go through search for something again and it'll say, you visited this place 2 times last month. And I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
The one of the podcasts that I listen to WordPress is a podcast. It's about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours long every week. It's called This Week in Google, which just is a demonstration of how sad I am. And it's a guy called Jeff Jarvis and Leo Laporte, Casey Higginbotham, and they just whack this subject around every week. And it's really interesting. The tentacles, the tendrils, the stuff that Google knows about you. It's not just Google, it's Facebook and all of them. It is breathtaking what Sometimes I do get a bit worried about the sort of stranglehold, and I would, the idea that you're starting in a competitive field and these search results pages, that's kind of your ambition. Obviously, it makes loads of work for SEO consultants, so that's great. right? But even them, they must be bricking it in an era where they don't even know what Google's going to do, and they don't know if their content is going to be pushed below some sort of new block that Google's going to shove at the top. Anyway, There you go.
They've just finished telling. Okay.
I was just going to say, I think you can't fault Google for their mission, which is to organize the world's information. And if it's actually easier to find what you're looking for without even clicking through,
you're right.
That's what it is. I do think, though, like in the free market, they're becoming very monopolistic. So, and it's also getting a lot harder for SEO consultants to do their job because Google's getting harder and harder to. So the name of the game for web professionals, I think, is about building relevancy more than tips and tricks on like how to get ranked. It's if the content is good, if you're business to Tahiti and you show up, number one in the Google because you're Delta Airlines or whatever it is, that's great.
Yeah.
But it is getting harder and harder out there for SEO.
I have been forever, since before they were a household name. I've been loving their product, and I still do. I'm a habitual user of an Android phone. I've given every single permission available to Google. They track where I go, look at the map on a monthly basis and go, oh, look where I went. And so I can't really fault them. I absolutely love everything that they do, but it does kind of worry a little bit. But you're right. Have you all heard of Rival, who my understanding is their mission is a bit more like open source. They kind of don't keep records, they don't track anything. So basically they give you what you want, and then when you close it down, that is expunged. But apparently they're on the rise. It's a tiny, if you look at if you look at the line graph, Google's line is like this big and DuckDuckGo's is 1 pixel next to it on the side. But it's growing. It is growing. And I think people like Mozilla in this drum about privacy and all of and all that kind of stuff. I think eventually maybe we will get a competitor, and DuckDuckGo at the minute seems like a pretty decent one.
I mean, the bigger Google grows, though, the harder it is for any competitor to really make a huge thing that happens, or there's some massive security breach, or people get really pissed about it. I don't see the needle moving that much. It's going to take a mass exodus.
Yeah, and it's too convenient, isn't it? And as I said earlier, we'll get onto their voice activation stuff invading our homes as well. I don't really want to talk about this unless anybody's got a particular need to, but the next article is entitled Laraberg, a Gutenberg implementation feature. I don't use Laravel. Does anybody here use Laravel? Does anybody want to talk about Laraberg? No, should we move on? Okay, good. Right, well, it exists. There you go, if you like Laravel. So WordPress security, I've got a couple of anybody do this? Anybody get asked by a client or told a client in the past to go and hide the WordPress version number, that kind of thing? Go and hide the fact that WordPress is in use? Anybody do that? Advise that?
Probably a long time ago, but
Well, iThemes, the popular, they do a whole bunch of stuff, but one of their most famous products, I suppose, is iThemes Security. They, until very recently, they had hide this feature. You could hide the version number, and I think after a little bit of thought, perhaps it's connected to the recent buyout. They've been bought by, who bought them? Was it Liquid Web? Somebody like that? I can't remember.
Yep.
And maybe it's something to do with that, but that option has now been removed because basically they're now saying to their customers, this is pointless. It doesn't actually do anything. So don't bother. They write in the article, it gave people a false sense of security. It doesn't actually remove any vulnerability that's there, which is completely true. And let's be honest, if you're automating an attack, you're just going to go through all of them in order, whether it's this particular version number patches are backported. So security advice to amend if you haven't been amending it. Anybody, any thoughts on that? Security in WordPress, particularly around this point. Paul, go for it.
Just checking I was holding the right hand up. Held my hand up and no hand appeared. So I think it's a nice article because it's just one of those things that when your clients disagree somewhere else. It's those sort of things. It's a so to be able to just reference an article like that with that whole security by obscurity, it's that argument, isn't it? To be able to kind of show someone that a major player, because it was actually work for them to remove that feature, so they could have just left it there, but they've actually removed the feature and then made an article out of it, which has made a little story out of it. So that's a useful thing for me, and it's one less setting in there as well. Because I like that plugin. I think do you use it as well, Kyle? Are you using?
I use the free version.
Yeah. So I think it's a nice move, really.
Yep. I mean, there's better things to do, isn't there? You lock it down with, and they go into it. They talk about all the things which we should be talking about, which is, two-factor authentication, strong passwords, place limits on the number of login attempts. And it's what essentially the end of the article is, I feel, is a bit of a tell you everything that their plugin actually has. So do you know what I mean? They destroy a part of their plugin and say why we didn't need it, and then at the bottom they go on to say all the things that you should be doing, which of course ties in very nicely with what their plugin does. But
it's a bit of a clickbait.
I had one website with a lot of problems with just bots hitting the login page, so I changed the URL of the login page, and I feel like that might be kind of this under the same line, like they're still going to find out how to log into WordPress, but going to the website doesn't know how to get there, but it's probably false security too.
Well, I suppose if you change it to something horrific, you've got a better chance. But if you change it to something like login or user or something like that, then yes, maybe not. Anyway, okay, let's maybe move on. The next one is on the Securi website, and it's basically, I don't know if interesting to know, most of these plugins that I come across that have got some kind of vulnerability, I've never. Every week I read out a bit of news saying this plugin is, there's a compromise, and most of the time it's like, I don't even know what that does, because there's about 35,000 of them in the repository or something. So there's one here called Entry Manager. I suppose we can guess what that does. And there's one here, WooCommerce User Email Verification. Anybody? Or Crickets? Anybody use those? Nah. Okay.
No. I did have a notification this morning from Managed. It was WP Statistics plugin.
Yep.
Had a vulnerability. I'm sorry if that's the wrong plugin and it's someone else's, but it was just like another one. It just felt like another one. How many of these? How much is this going on for?
I've been doing this news bulletin for about I don't know 60 weeks or something, and there was little to say about security a year ago, and now there's loads every week. I basically have to distill it down to 2 or 3 articles, but I could pretty much write 10 or so pieces about just security. We're just as we eclipse 1/3 of the entire internet, it's just a massive surface, isn't it? And the eyeballs on WordPress core, that's pretty locked down, and my understanding is that it's really well done. But these other less informed plugins, you just mentioned Managed WP. I use Main WP, which is a hosted variant of the same thing, and it's got this nice feature called something like out-of-date plugins or something like that, and it alerts you with a big red box in the dashboard, and all it is a warning saying, look, in for a year. We're not saying it's bad, we're just saying watch out, because if it hasn't been updated for a year, maybe there's stuff going on under the hood. But
just good reminder to keep lots of backups of your plan.
Backups of the backup. Backups of backups of backups.
Nathan doesn't back up anything.
I'm so backed up, it's ridiculous.
You should see what Nathan's setup is, to be honest. It's not to talk about now, but these government level backups. Nathan,
it is. It's mine are in a bunker in Minnesota.
It really is.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But you know what? It makes me sleep at night. I've screwed it up. I've messed things up. I've got no back. You only do it once, don't you? And weeks of work can just evaporate. So, okay. So speaking of plugins, we've got a whole bootload of WordPress plugin news. Chris has gone away. Let's hope he comes back. We got a whole load of
too much stress about all this hacking.
Yeah, that's right. Let's hope he refreshes. Hope he refreshes the page and come back. It's live, folks. So anybody big?
I'm not actually. No.
Oh, he's back. Look, he's
Some.
back. I'm not. I'm really not. But WordPress, sorry, WooCommerce 3.6 has now come along.
About that.
Oh, good, good. Because I'm glad, because none of us three really use it.
About WooCommerce, the WooCommerce
yeah.
article? Yeah, this is, I think the most interesting thing about this is Gutenberg came out WordPress 5.0 in November. And WooCommerce has taken until now to really roll out their approach to blocks in the new editor. And I think that just shows a lot of thought and maturity. Like when 5.0 rolled out, WooCommerce kept going. It held on to the old way of doing things, and then it took its time. E-commerce is important. I know this because I have e-commerce features in my stuff. If you mess up the money, people get really upset. So you don't want to mess with e-commerce without being rock solid. And the user experience of adding products to your store and everything, it needs to be solid. And then the migration, if you hit the update version and where everything changed, intentional about that. We use WooCommerce to sell our software.
Yeah.
We look to it a lot as a model, and I think it's great. I'm really excited to dig into the new product blocks.
Have you before with WooCommerce updating? You know, just clicking the update button and things going wrong, because that, not being a heavy user of it, in fact, not being really a user of it at all. I hear that a lot, and I don't know how. If it just bubbles to the top because it only happens once, but it's a killer.
I think for us, we're not bleeding edge. Like, we're not going to update our live production site to this new WooCommerce like today. We're going to wait a little while. We'll play with it. We'll test it out. For us, we don't really have a problem with things breaking. It's more common that we've done so much custom on top of WooCommerce to optimize for different things that we usually. But the core itself is pretty stable in my experience.
Yep. Oh, well, that's good to hear, because, like I say, I think it's probably a skewed version. You know, you remember the calamity more than the 1,000 little good things that happened, and so updated WooCommerce and everything, the sky fell in.
It's typically like a theme problem or a plugin, or custom code problem. The core itself is pretty solid. But like I said, when you mess with somebody's money, it's big news if something goes wrong.
The takeaways, as you rightly said, is the product blocks, and they can be distilled as follows. In WooCommerce 3.6, this is coming directly off WooCommerce.com. We've got the products block, an individual hand-picked products block, and there's more information on the website. Bestsellers, top-rated block, newest product, sale products, and products with specific attributes being quite popular. But also, probably to everybody's benefit, is the way that they're storing the data in the table. The tables have been restructured so that you can get the data out a little bit more that in too much detail. But the end result, it says, is speed. So hopefully, if you are using WooCommerce, you've got more speed, new blocks, and a bit more of a tweak on the dashboard as well. So, you know, if you're staring at your chart, didn't like the way they looked, 3.6 came around probably like a week ago now, something like that. So go and get yourself updated.
I've just been using it more when I've put cart flows into action. Like that's kind of forced me to use WooCommerce more, because I want to be able to do flows.
Okay.
Exactly the same for me. I was just literally looking for opportunities to use cart flows for client sites, and I love it. And so I'm only just, because normally in my agency we don't do catalog, because we just, you've got to be able to give almost 24/7 support for these. Like Chris said about, if you mess with a client's money, they might have no traffic on their site, but they'll tell you that they could have lost 10K that day because the site went down for a few minutes.
You look at the logs and discover,
no one was there.
I feel much more comfortable with virtual and downloadable products than I do with physical products. That always worries me.
Yeah. We'll move on. We're kind of staying with the theme of WooCommerce because the guys over at, oh my goodness me, I'm going to get this wrong, Power Pack for Beaver Builder. Kyle's a big, heavy Elementor user, but I know that both and Paul have played extensively with Beaver Builder. They've got these new updates, all to do with WooCommerce carts, and it looks really nice. One of them is called the Woo cart module, and basically it's you've seen it before on an e-commerce site. You've got the little shopping icon and the little cart icon in the top right hand corner, and you add things to cart, and it kind of, the number goes ping to 2, ping to 3, and it shows you what's in your basket, and you can proceed. But they've also got, which I really like this version, because I think on a mobile device especially, it's going to take over the whole display. There's this off canvas menu which sweeps in from the so it's basically the same thing, except instead of it just being a little modal pop-up, it just takes the whole screen over. And obviously if you're looking at your cart, you kind of want eyeballs off the menu and eyeballs off everything else. You just want to put that firmly rooted at the bottom of the viewport, so that's quite nice. Yeah, any thoughts?
I've got Woopack and I've used it, and I think it's a really good update.
Yep.
This is a really good update. It's just another, Woopack really good add-ons for Beaver Builder to, design stuff in the page, but then you would miss out on some of the things that maybe your theme gave you. So if you use Astra or GeneratePress or Page Builder Framework or something like that, you might miss out with these latest things. It's almost like some of the theme specific stuff that it's like this off canvas stuff. So you're dragging in modules, but those aren't appearing exactly in the page. They're just adding functionality to the overall page. But it's really good update. So pretty pleased about that.
Good. Yeah, and if you got in on the sort of lifetime deal, that's, I guess, even better. Yeah, it's nice.
Obviously.
It's just a nice little incremental update.
That's Paul has the lifetime deal.
Paul gets a good litmus test for whether it's worth buying or not. Did Paul? Actually, no, he's not. Did Paul buy it?
No,
yes,
he's a
Paul
good
bought
test.
it.
Did they have a lifetime deal?
Yeah.
Ask if Paul owns it.
Okay, let's move on. Does anybody use BodyPress? Is that a thing still? Anybody?
I've used it a little bit, but
Yeah.
it's the future of it. I'm just curious what's going to happen. I love the idea of it, but it needs work. And unfortunately, I think it doesn't have a good monetization model behind it. So therefore, the resources required to do the development and the support and the momentum are not optimized right now for BuddyPress. You
go to the site and it kind of looks a little bit like it's from a slightly different era. I make no I apologize to anybody who's involved with it. It just looks a little bit like it needs a bit. You look at the changelog for 4.3.0, which is what this article's about. Just speaking to what Chris just said, it's all of it is like security related. So it's like 9 security patches, privilege escalation, XSS vulnerabilities and so on. So, it's hard, isn't it? If all of your energies are going into just keeping the thing stable. I don't know anybody that's using it. I've never used it. I don't know anybody that
used it about 8 years.
Every time I see it brought up in a group, it's just people complaining about it. So
right. Yeah.
Mess with it.
Well,
ignorantly, I was going to say ignorantly, I feel like it's a GDPR nightmare waiting to happen for people who use it. Total ignorance. It just feels, I'm always advising clients, keep your personal data of your users outside of WordPress, unless you really understand the platform that you're using here. Mm-hmm. And so to see like with loads of security patches, which is great, but to know that those were in existence on platform with tons of user data in there, it just makes me worried to use something like that. And I feel really bad saying that, but how I feel when I hear about it. Chris is gone. He's back.
Chris is gone. He's back again. Right. So the next article, this is, I'm going to talk about this one in particular, but then maybe talk very, very quickly about the whole ethic of doing this and whether you do this. Have a product called Brander, which there's probably a whole heap of rivals, but it's basically get WordPress, make it look completely different. Strip out all the menus, change the color scheme, and I know that there's a load of tools. Let's talk about what they've got. They've now got this capability so that when a user signs up, you send them a link and they have to sign up at a particular role. I think that's quite cool. I think that's quite an ingenious thing. So you send them a link and that only allows them to be a subscriber or whatever. That could be quite useful. They've enhanced their importer so that if you've exported settings, you can import them. And so essentially you can, with a couple of buttons, make a website look did over here. So if you've got like a branded way of doing your WordPress admins with all your support links and things embedded in the menus, then you can do that with a couple of clicks. And I don't know quite how this fits into the idea of branding it. They've also made it so that you can use an SMTP email provider of choice, and that's just buried in this plugin now, which cool, why not? So anybody do any of that stuff? Use this plugin? Do any of the Chris?
I just want to say, can you guys hear me? Just getting an audio message, but I think it's cool. Have you guys heard of the word WAAS, WordPress as a Service, WAS?
Yeah.
I see that like growing where people are using the WordPress to build a type service. I don't think there's particularly anything wrong with it. It's just a way to go with just customizing it. And I mean, that's what open source is all about. If you want to make it, that's fine. You're just building on top of other things. So I think it's cool.
I just never mess with mine because I went through like all my care plan customers last week and was running a bunch of numbers and stuff, and people on care plans, I have one that logs into WordPress. So if I were to do a bunch of customizations to the dashboard, it would just be for myself, which is like a giant waste of time.
That's worthy statistics, though. That in plugin, how many people actually log into WordPress, and is it worth your while doing this? The WAS thing, I think, is phenomenal. We've had a guy on this podcast called Arindo Duque, who's got a fabulous plugin called which does all of this, but it doesn't it doesn't fiddle with the WordPress admin. All it does is provide monetization capabilities for setting up plans and like importing current websites and pages and all that, and it's brilliant. Go out of their way in the WAS model to completely hide everything. In fact, I know they do because I've seen what they've done, and it is incredible. You would not know. It looks like a complete bespoke SaaS app. My only fear about doing that is fault line in that introduced in a core update or something, and all of a sudden that mirage has gone. Yeah. What's that logo? What's that W in the black at the top where it's normally white? So yeah, great idea. Why not, Paul?
So my comment isn't about that plugin as such. It's more a WPMU observation. So I've been a subscriber to them for quite a few. And it's just that if you start any discussion online that involves WPMU, then there's quite a lot of trolling that goes on. And it was just to sort of say that they're massively improved over the last couple of years, and I've managed to meet a few of them now at WordCamps, including Tim, their COO. I think he is. Yeah, he is. Yeah. I think he should be more like the party organizer or something. Like
beer vouchers, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. He just gives out beer vouchers to people all the time. And I've met some of their team as well, and they're all totally on board with the new way of thinking of WPMU, of kind of refocusing to the stuff that people really need. Since that link, that be able to send a client a link that sets them up as an editor without having to go and create it all myself for them. Just this little tweaks like that is really useful. And the stuff they're doing with security and performance plugins is really, really good now. So just to sort of say, everyone deserves a second chance. In these situations.
If you feel yourself needing a second chance, just hand out beer vouchers.
Exactly. That's all it takes.
I agree. I completely agree. I think a few years ago they'd lost their way and they had like 190 plugins, and that's an exaggeration, but they had lots of plugins, and now they seem to have distilled it down to, I'm going to say 9. That's completely made up. It might be 8, but you've got you've got their security defender, and you've got their you've got this forms plugin, Forminator. That got. I agree. I think they're totally worth a second chance, but the blood is thicker than water goes there. Lots of people they've burned that bridge, and I wish them the best, because I like their stuff, and I too, Paul, am a subscriber. I have signed up for their stuff and probably will continue to do it. Okay, shall I move on? The next one is we had a Mia. I'll do this very briefly because it's a self-promotion bit, really. We had a Mia Helzer from WPML on this week. He spoke about WPML and how it works and how you can. There we go. That's that. And the next stuff has got nothing to do with WordPress, but no spoilers, please. Anybody, if you've seen it, don't say what happens. I have seen it. We're talking about Endgame, and this week they changed their SERPs pages. So if you should do this if you haven't done it. Go to Google whatever, type in Thanos, Thanos, who is the bad guy in those movies, and appear a little gauntlet will appear, golden, just like in the film. And if you just click on it, see what happens. I like it. I love these little Google Easter eggs that they bury, the little games that are buried inside the logo, and the fact that they update their logo.
Sorry, I told you I'd try not to talk as much, but there was two major events this weekend. This last week actually. There was what's it called? Endgame. I didn't watch it because I was at an even bigger event.
You were.
Event called Agency Transformation Live in Wellingborough, UK. So I just wanted to give a shout out to that event because it's happening next year as well, and it was absolutely brilliant. Well done, Lee Jackson, for organising it.
Could you guys bring me up to speed on what was the event all about?
You was, because you were actually there.
Yeah, so it was wherever your agency is right now. It was very focused on agency and agency health, whether that's the health of the agency owner or the business plan of it. So it wasn't like a let's 10x our income type conference. It was very much about how do you want to make sustainability in your agency and move forward in a healthy way. And speakers from all around the world and stuff, all generally on that kind of message. And it was a huge success. And I know Lee Jackson was so stressed about setting the whole thing up. An amazing job. He pulled it off.
How many people came?
I think it was probably about 100 or something. Cool. And but it's hoping to double that for next year. With all the evidence that's out there now on social about what happened.
I knew when he booked this or started this a while back, I'm like, man, I tried to go and it didn't work out for me this year, but I was like, man, I'm going to be so jealous that entire week. And man, Thursday and Friday, I was just, every time Facebook would reload all these people I know and love, and they're all hanging out together, and it looked like an awesome event. I mean, I'm sure doubling it next year is not going to be a problem at all. In fact, I already have tickets.
Yep. Looking forward to seeing you there, mate.
The elephant in the room has to be addressed, though, Paul Lacey, because the word is that you during your little speech, you made everybody cry. Now, what's going on there?
Just kick them all in the nuts. Spin around. No, I just told a story, and Lee Jackson was crying his eyes out. It was lovely.
Oh,
we had a massive hug on the stage after.
You weren't therefore talking about plugins, I'm guessing.
No. I wish I had. It would have been so much. I set myself up for a big emotional talk, and but it did go down really well, and it was absolute highlight of my life. That moment, it was amazing. So
I can say from far away that was the most talked about thing at the event.
Yeah. The fact that you kicked everybody. Yeah.
I didn't really, but I did tell everybody I got some new boxer shorts live on stage.
Well, next year, running in May 2nd?
6th through 8th.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for that correction. May the 6th through May the 8th. It's available if you go to Agency Transformation. I believe is the URL.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, go check it out. And well done, Lee. I could not have done that. Not only would I not have the mental bandwidth, but I also simply, I just couldn't have got all those people. Right, who's a big Twitter user? Yeah. Do you have to be a Twitter user these days? I don't know. I have a few things automated on Twitter, like when I post a blog post. Off searchenginejournal.com, which I actually find myself reading rather a lot. I don't know why. And it's to say that 10% of Twitter users create 80% of the tweets. So basically, just about everything that you're reading on Twitter is coming from a few key players, and that feels right to me.
Mm-hmm.
That feels like what I see when I go on Twitter. There's the same people, but not just my same people. You know, the people are usually full of people who are influential and have some skin in the game of posting often and being out there. So I don't know if that's something you guys want to talk about or not.
I think it's just classic 80-20 people, like, you know, 20% of the people make 80% of the money, or whatever. There's all these like things like that in our society, but I think it's just reflected here in Twitter. Apparently,
the statistically that make up the 80% of tweets is more likely to be women than men. That's quite interesting. And then there's a whole load of other breakdowns about this sort of economic bracket that those people fall into. And it's just interesting, you know, the people that have got their Twitter thing going on and what their demographic is. I cannot work Twitter out. I literally don't understand it. And I don't mean that in a joking way. I genuinely don't get it. When I open the app, there's 4 little menu items on the top, and I click them, and I have no idea why that thing is nested inside there and how it's related to that. Like, none, absolutely none. So I just get fed up and shut the app.
This is true all over the world, but when you watch the news here, most of the they'll quote,
tweets.
It's quoting tweets, but it's not only from just like celebrities or whatever like that. I mean, if you want to hear from your local out,
do we get that, Paul? I follow the news locally, and I don't feel that we're hooked onto Twitter quite as much.
Yeah. I mean, like there was a fire around. There was a fire near my house recently. And I could have just asked the neighbors on Twitter instead, and local people and then local police were tweeting about it and stuff. So I always find it's the quickest way to try and find what people are talking about on issues.
So this is how did you find out about the fire?
I just typed in Bromsgrove, which is the town where I live.
Oh, okay.
That's what everyone would be talking about.
That looks like a magnifying glass.
Yes, that's the one.
You know what? No, I just don't use it. I just couldn't work out how it would know about. Maybe it's a geolocation thing, and it figures there's a fire. That's big news, so it raises it, bubbles up to the top. Maybe that's how it works.
No, you search for it. You search for it.
I am.
Don't feel bad, Nathan. It was really only a year ago before I feel like I figured out Twitter. It was a combination of not using it for news and then realizing I could, and then also I'm like a deep work focused kind of guy, and it seemed.
Yep.
But now I enjoy it. It's for news mostly, and ideas, like short, quick ideas. And if I need to get a message out quickly, personal or business, boom.
I probably will remain ignorant of it for more. On principle, he's never drunk Coke ever, and he's never gonna. It's just this thing, and maybe that's me. I'm gonna put my flag in the sand and say I'm never gonna get good at Twitter. Always gonna be mystified. This one, right? This fascinates me. I have a Google Home. It's in my kitchen. It's remarkable. I mean, it's unbelievably cool, but it's also that's the. I've got a bigger one.
Of course you do.
Yeah. No, honestly, mine's tall like this. And
sure.
and it's I ask it all sorts of things. Primarily, that's where we sit and have our thing. So okay, Google. Oh, mustn't say that because people's machines will go off. Play music and things, but it turns out that people are using it more and more for like searching for stuff. And again, your experience, guys, do you use like
I will say we have one. We probably have 6 of them in our house, which is like real overkill, but like the kids have one in their room so they can listen to music. We have white noise for her when she sleeps, so we can just say the magic okay phrase and then play white noise, and then it plays white noise for 12 hours. So we use it for all kinds of things like that. But even like in our room, we'll have an argument about something or want to look something up there, and so we use it frequently throughout the day for sure.
And do you use it for like specific things? So for example, would you trust it? Let's go back to the flight thing. Would you trust it to, I don't know, order you a taxi or all that
Okay,
stuff.
here's an example. Last night we were watching the show 60 Minutes, and our kids were in there, and they were talking about NATO. And my son asked what all countries are in NATO, and of course I don't have that at the top of my head, so we just asked Google, and it lists just answered that question right there.
It is amazing. Here's a fun one. Try this when you've finished. Ask, say, the trigger word. This is the Google Home in particular. Ask it, what's the longest word in French? And then the response. It's not in any way rude. It won't offend you. It's just weird, or at least it was. Yeah, I use it all the time. Like, primarily, it's to do exactly what you did. I want a quick bit of information, what time it is here, or what the temperature. People are getting more savvy with it. You know, they're asking it. So this is a sort of sliding scale, but 68 people ask for quick facts. That's me. I fit in that beautifully. 65% of people directions. I mean, I don't know how it would do that. Is this tied to the phone maybe as well? It's not just the Google Home, it's the Google Assistant perhaps. 52% of people say they search for Yep, done that. Ask for a plumber in the area, that kind of thing. And I just take the top result. So there's a really solid reason for being number one in the SERPs, isn't it?
If you ask for a website designer here, it starts ringing my phone number. I've done it live before.
Wow.
What? Yeah.
What? It rings your phone. It doesn't just give the result.
Yeah,
what
can make
voodoo is this?
I'll just say, Google, call a website. The phone starts ringing. It's brilliant.
Wow.
Well, if only clients would do it.
Yeah. Okay. So it hasn't actually rung when somebody has made that request from Google out in the wild.
I mean, I don't ask people if they asked Google to call me or not.
Right. Okay. That's good. That's good. But again, it goes back to what we spoke about earlier. You know, the people, Google dominating everything. 44% of people research for products and services. I guess they're just wanting more information about it. 31% of people say that they use voice search to compare products and services. I didn't even know it could do that kind of thing. You know, that it could take
I think
one
70% of people ask it to make fart noises.
Yeah, it's me.
100% in my house.
Yeah,
I've done that a lot.
Have you come across this feature? Completely tangential, but slightly. I forget the name of it, where you can instruct Google to go and book you a restaurant. They showed it off at Google I/O. It was unbelievable. The demo was live, and so this is going back about almost a year, and then subsequently they've released it. Yeah, they've released it. I think in places like the Bay Area, a few little areas. Basically, you say to Google, book me a table at such and such a time. Their AI then makes the call and talks to the person at the other end, and it's indistinguishable from a human being, right down to the pause. You know, it'll sort of like pontificate. 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
If you see my shoulders go like that, it means I'm about to ask a question. It's like, no, it's this one.
Wow.
It's probably it won't be too long before, you know, the Google thing is just talking to another Google thing rather than a person in the restaurant. You know, so it makes it even easier. Yeah. What? I'm busy. Can you call back in a minute? Whatever.
Yeah, that'll be a fun conversation to listen to.
Leanne commented that her kids use it to learn how to spell words for doing homework. So yes, my kids use it for that a ton too. Moo like a cow or beatbox. So try those.
If you ask it to play the sound of an instrument that you've never heard of, it's pretty good at that as well. You know, if you want to know what a bass guitar sounds like, it'll just knock out a little bass. It's quite good for that. But yeah, the sort of caveat that Google put with this sort of stuff is a lot of people wanted to make it clear as the phone call began, you know, I don't want to be talking to a robot. I want you to tell me that you're a conversation. I'm okay with that. So there's loads of privacy concerns around it, but there you go. Yeah, fascinating. I've got one. I don't have as many. In fact, Kyle, it's interesting that you said about 6. I think I was all gung ho about getting every room I kind of looked at the logs of everything that was kept, because I don't know if you can go to myactivity.google.com, I believe is the URL. And you can see all the things that it's recorded, and it's completely benign. You know, it is me asking the genuine questions, and they've recorded nothing else. But it very quickly became obvious how much was being recorded, and at that point I stepped away and thought, I'm just going to keep it in that one room, and that's fine by me. Yeah. That's it. That's all I've got. If anybody's got anything else they want to chuck in. No.
That's all I got.
That's all you got. So that's it. We took, that was an hour. Was that too long?
That was a lot of stories. A lot of stories.
Too long? Yeah. What do people think? I know that there's delay or something, but I'd really appreciate it if any.
I did see people complaining that the audio was cutting out quite a bit. There was lots of comments of that, but several people saying this was a really good way to start off a Monday morning. So,
what time is it where you guys are?
I got 9 o'clock in the morning here.
Okay. We're in the middle of the afternoon. It's home time from school, 3 o'clock. I've got to go and fetch my kids in a moment, but okay, that's good to know. Yeah, sorry about the audio marker. It does what it does. I will look into that. I will find out why it's doing that. But thanks for taking the time to watch this. I should look at the camera, shouldn't I? Thanks for taking the time to watch this. I've got everybody pinned over on my other monitor, so there we go. So I could read the articles. Really appreciate it, Paul. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Kyle, thank you very much. Chris, thank you so much. We'll try this again next week. If any of you three want to hook up and do it again next week, then that would be great. And very welcome. I love doing stuff like this. When I click this end broadcast button, guys, I think we're all going to get booted off the call. So if I reach out to you in another way, but if not,